How's it going, everybody? C-RadTV back here in our video. So, of course, the NFL draft is less than a month away. So now I'm going to be going ahead and I'll be jumping into the NFL draft previews and giving you my thoughts on all the big areas of need the Lions should look at in the draft. And I'll tell you is which players the Lions should target and which players the Lions should possibly look at avoiding in the draft. So, for this one, we're going to look at the top defensive lineman prospects, since defensive line is still a bit of a weakness on the Lions. Well, more defensive tackle to defensive end, but, doesn't really hurt to have too many, never hurts to have too many pass rushers. But anyway, we'll look at the top defensive end and defensive tackle prospects for round 1 of the 2023 NFL Draft. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it. So, starting off with defensive ends, the first one we're going to look at here, hailing out of Alabama, standing 6'4", weighing 243 pounds, we got Will Anderson Jr. So, for Will, he's your prototype pass rush defensive end, so he's very good at rushing the passer. In terms of his strengths, he's a special athlete, has rare movement and upside. Frame has room to hold more weight if a team wants him to be a little more heavier. His length is a game changer. He takes full advantage when he engages in blocks. He explodes out of his stance. He covers ground easily. Has a low center of gravity. Natural advantage setting the edge. He's regularly double-teamed in college, but despite that, he can still produce at a very good quality level. He uses his hands efficiently, brings speed and power with them. He's able to get through the hips of the blockers. He can turn around the angle. He has easy projections, both an outside linebacker and defensive end, so you can effectively use him anywhere on that edge as an edge rusher. His balance is rarely an issue. He covers ground easily when he chases plays down. And he's a complete player with almost no limitations, and he won't take plays off for a loaf. In terms of his weaknesses, though, his lack of bulk could create some issues against strength in the run game. He wasn't asked to drop into coverage much, and he couldn't need time to take to it. He's still developing his counters. He relies more on his athletic prowess than elite technique, so he's got to work a bit on technique instead of just using brute strength. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Brian Burns of the Carolina Panthers, like easily one of the top defensive players or one of the top prospects in this draft there is. Very unlikely he doesn't end up, he'll probably fall to 3. He doesn't fall to 6. I think the only way the Lions get him is if they trade up to 3 with the Cardinals, because I highly doubt he falls to 6. If he falls to 6, 100% take him, but I think the only way the Lions have a chance at him is if you trade up for him. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Clemson, standing 6'5", weighing 275 pounds, we got Myles Murphy. So for Myles, he's your prototype strength defensive end, so he's very, very strong in that scrimmage. So in terms of strengths, he's borderline perfect build for a defensive end, has enormous and long limb, premier size to set the edge, can get out of the stance well, has burst to threaten offensive tackles around the arc. He has workman-like hands, he's powerful and accurate. Strong run defender, has an ideal anchor for holding ground and redirecting ball carriers. Has a good engine to run down plays and win with effort. He's experienced with both a hand down and standing up. Has easy power, handles to step up in weight class. He has an easy strider. He feels for playing through contact and asserting his physicality jump off the tape. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he has a little bit of ankle tightness around the arc. His long speed and bursts are only above average. His size may not be enough to kick inside and rotate around the defensive line. Hand quickness is modest, can lead to reliances on technique and power over quickness. Range isn't enough to take on any coverage duties in the flats. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Bradley Chubb and the Miami Dolphins. Has a lot of upside for sure. Yeah, a few things to work on, but if he has really good technique, it could make up for any speed flaws. But I'm not 100% sure if he ends up at number 6. I could see him going number 5 to the Seahawks. So, yeah, maybe someone to keep an eye on if he falls to 6, but I feel like he's gonna probably go to the Seahawks at number 5. Honestly, I have no clue what Seattle's gonna do at number 5, to be honest, but I could see Seattle going Myles Murphy. So the next player I'm gonna go over here, hailing out of Kansas State, standing 6'3", weighing 255 pounds. We got Felix Anudike Uzama. So for Felix, his strengths, he's a natural defensive end body, has good length and strength, has a good first step, which threatens linemen laterally. He gets his hands up and interferes with passing lanes, has excellent play strength through contact, allows him to rip through hands without slowing, has adequate flexibility to dip and turn corner around the backside of the pocket. He presents both power and finesse threats. He drew double teams fairly regularly in college, has great awareness and ball tracking as a run defender. He's creative with his approach and mixes his hands up well. He detaches from blocks and reels in runners at the point of attack. His skill set's incredibly well-rounded. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he gets out over his skis on occasion, can lead to balance issues. His modest hand quickness will make him an easier pass rusher to read at the NFL level. Likely not versatile enough to regularly get dropped into coverage or kicked inside as a pass rusher, though. His straight line speed's adequate, can be avoided by faster runners. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Jermaine Johnson of the New York Jets, so a lot of things to like for sure, but a few things, though, that he's going to have to get better at, but maybe someone to keep an eye on at number 18 if the Lions go a different direction at number 6, or maybe if he falls to the second round. We'll see. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of TCU, standing 6'4", weighing 272 pounds, we got Dylan Horton. So for Dylan, his strengths, has excellent combination of size, length, and athleticism will pop when teams stack their boards. Has a great first step, which will be a mismatch against most offensive tackles. He packs plenty of power when he uncorks as a bull rusher. His play strength's pro-ready, has unique pursuit speed, allows him to run down almost anyone. He was a team captain at TCU, energetic approach went out of his play, and with him being a team captain, he's also a leader of men. Easy knee bender, can play with a naturally low center of gravity. Hand usage is frequent and restless. Drew a lot of double teams. He has plenty of agility to run stunts. Has an impressive variety of ways to win. He's fine when drive through contact. He's versatile enough to kick inside on third down and can get skinny through gaps. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he has slightly high-cut build, which can lead to issues in the run game. He's still learning to read runners and detach when setting the edge. His counter moves have come a long way in a year, but he's still learning how to time them all getters, so it's still a work in progress. But hey, always room for improvement at the end of the day. He's more reliant on his mass as a run defender than technique or control, so he's got to learn to use technique and control instead of just use his brute strength. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Kwity Paye of the Indianapolis Colts, so a lot of things to like from him for sure. And, with him being a captain and a leader of men, locker room presence, that's going to be something that fits the culture with Dan Campbell and, a Dan Campbell type of guy. Maybe someone to keep an eye on in the second round or the first, or maybe late first round with the 18th pick. Maybe someone to keep an eye on for sure there. And the final defensive end we're going to go over here before we move on to defensive tackles. We got hailing out of Army, standing 6'6", weighing 255 pounds. And when I say Army, I mean the college, not the U.S. military thing. But you get what I mean. The point is, though, this player, it's Andre Carter. So for Andre, he's your prototype explosion defensive end, so he's very explosive off the snap. In terms of his strengths, he closes in a hurry, has speed to run down plays from behind, has a wide tackle radius, which helps seal the deal once he gets in range. His length is disruptive to passing lanes. He consistently gets his hands up to interferes with the release. He uncoils from his stance with both good burst and initial leverage, has quick and efficient with hand usage. And he has also great change of direction skills for his size. He's an incredibly slippery rusher with the agility to make linemen punch at air. He drops into coverage, holds his own in space, mixes tempo, finds unique angles to attack blocks. He's also one of the small school studs in this draft class for defensive ends, because the last time an Army player was drafted in the first round, you have to go all the way to 1947. That's been a while. But Carter, he definitely could change that because he's an outstanding athlete with elite tools. And it's up to the staff, coaching staff he's with to shape him to reach his full potential. And with the way Campbell's coaching staff is, I think he could get to that full potential. However, though, in terms of weaknesses, though, he played most of his snaps as a stand-up rusher. It may take some time to transition to a defensive end role. His play strength will need a year or two for further development before he can be a reliable run defender. Has a narrow lower body, long legs. He plays with a narrow base too often. Limits his anchor ability against the run. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Ellerson Smith and the New York Giants. So definitely a lot of things to like about Andre Carter for sure. You know, a lot of things to like, though. A few things, though, that's going to be a work in progress. But, of course, always room for improvement. But, yeah, definitely somebody to keep an eye on for sure. All right, now moving on to defensive tackles. The first one we're going to go over here, this is a player I've been back and forth on as the player I want the most in the draft. And I'm kind of leaning toward wanting him the most, despite his issues, which we'll get to that in a little bit. We got hailing out of Georgia, standing 6'3", weighing 300 pounds. We got Jalen Carter. So for Jalen, he's a prototype pass-rushing defensive tackle. So for Jalen's strengths, he has the first off the bus body, has size and length a lot of teams will covet, has incredible first step quickness, rockets in past most interior linemen, instant pressure generator, unique blend of burst, agility, and power, athletically overwhelms every single blocker, and will likely draw additional scheme attention. Plays with excellent leverage thanks to his ankle and knee flexibility. Makes good use of his length. Incredibly balanced to build athlete with a great connection between hands and feet. Freaky closing speed for a big man. He's a trustworthy tackler who won't let rushers slip away. Has all-pro caliber athleticism. Will translate immediately. He's incredibly twitched for a big man. Could move outside and rush as a defensive end if necessary. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he's not disciplined with his angles and can be caught off guard by combo blocks. His awareness is still a work in progress, but may need time to develop as a two-gapper if a team wants to put that on his plate. You know, he's still learning how to implement his hands as a pass rusher, can lack refined technique. He's usually a tick late to recognize and detach from blocks when the ball is passing by. So he's got to learn to get a little bit quicker than that. So yeah, a lot of room and improvement for sure. And of course, we all know about a lot of his red flags coming in, you know, with the legal issues he's having because of the speeding thing. And with two of his teammates dying in a car crash. And then, you know, he showed up to his pro day 9 pounds overweight, and yeah, he really shit the bed during his pro day. So yeah, a lot of red flags, and they're slowly starting to pile on. And really, the weight gain, I would kind of lean that more toward his mental state, probably from the accident, because a lot of people take a lot of mental tragedies like that differently. But in terms of Jalen Carter's NFL comparison, he's been compared to Quinnen Williams in the New York Jets. And I like Quinnen Williams a lot too. But yeah, a lot of red flags for sure. And so yeah, originally I was thinking maybe he'd be worth trading up to number 3 for. But with his legal issues and all that, he's going to fall to 6. He's going to be right there at 6. The question is, are the Lions going to take him? Or are the red flags going to be way too much for them to where they pass on him? And I'll just say this, the last few times I said pass on a player with so many red flags, it has backfired in my face so many times to where I do not want to make that same mistake ever again. Unless I feel confident that this ain't it. But I feel like Jalen Carter is that guy. Like, I honestly lean toward talent because there are a few players on the Lions that have had some red flag issues, you know, like Amon-Ra St. Brown got in a fight with a couple teammates. Didn't matter. Hell, James Houston, he got busted for credit card fraud. That didn't matter. Hell, I'll be honest here, the Lions probably would have took Micah Parsons and his issues if Penei Sewell didn't fall to the Lions at number 7. Like, to be honest, I don't really think Campbell and Holmes would care too much about it because they want football players, and Jalen Carter's a football player. And you know what? I do feel confident that Campbell and this coaching staff can help Jalen Carter with his issues and get him back on the right track. Like I'm solely saying we should take him at number 6 because I have confidence in the culture and Campbell to make it not matter. To where they can get the absolute most out of him. Like, if I had no faith in the coaching and the culture, I would have said pass on him. But I have so much faith in Campbell and company to where I'd say it's worth the risk. I'm willing to take the risk just for the high reward. Like taking Carter, it's high risk, but if you can pull it off, the reward is so goddamn high to where I want that goddamn reward. And the final defensive tackle, the final defensive lineman, the final player we're going to go over in this video, hailing out of Clemson, standing 6'5", weighing 305 pounds, we got Bryan Bresee. So for Bryan, his strengths, it's easy to notice with his natural tools. They're intriguing, likely the big selling point for him. At the snap, he has a physical push with quality get-off that overpowers blockers. Despite being over 300 pounds, he was getting plenty of work on the edge, still able to make an impact there. So he has versatility to where you can put him almost anywhere on the defensive line from end to tackle, and he can make a damn impact right there. And, has long arms, that provides a high-quality swim move, helps him get into the backfield closer to the QB. Despite his average production in college, he was constantly making his way to the backfield and creating pressure as a pass rusher. You don't have to sack the QB. You just got to put enough pressure on him to force him to make a bad throw. Honestly, a sack is a bonus, and that's about it. If he's getting pressure to the QB and force him to make a bad throw, then he did his job, plain and simple. He still needs to improve against the run, but he works well laterally with experience working all over the defensive line. He uses length and quickness to cover multiple lanes on the line and has nice pursuit skills. In terms of his weaknesses, though, his appeal's very heavily weighed on upside, so there will be some growing pains for sure, but his investment on potential are always risky, and run defense is so very fucking raw. His base is constantly too narrow, so lacks anchor at the line of scrimmage. And positions on containment is frustrating. As a pass rusher, he works too high, gives up leverage in order to win his attacks more routinely. His medical is also going to be a factor with his after-injury issues in 2021, when he only played 4 games due to a torn ACL. And also dealt with a lot that year, including the death of his sister, Ella, who passed away due to brain cancer. But he was still a very strong person that powered through with it. But, the medical history could be some red flags, so some injury concerns. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Leonard Williams of the New York Giants. So, a lot of upside for sure, but, a few things that could draw some red flags. And he's been slowly falling down the board. To where, the Lions, I would say possibly I would consider maybe an option at number 18 if the Lions go with a corner at number 6. Or whatnot. But yeah, definitely, I would still say, definitely worth taking a chance on him if we don't take Jalen Carter and we decide to pass on him. And just, if we pass on Carter because the red flags being too much for the Lions to handle, I think Bryan Bresee could be a solid plan B option at number 18, and we could just go get one of the top 3 corners. And we're going to get to those corners in a later video. But yeah, definitely Bresee is a solid plan B option if Plan A is just too much to handle. So yeah, anyway, that'll wrap it up here for this Detroit Lions 2023 NFL Draft Preview. So yeah, a lot of interesting defensive lineman prospects to keep an eye on. A lot of interesting names for sure to keep an eye on here. Some interesting prospects for sure on this list. In terms of who I would target in this, out of everyone on the list, if we trade up to number 3, I would 100% be on board with trading up to number 3 for Will Anderson. I'm on board with taking Jalen Carter at 6, despite the red flag issues. I'm even on board with taking Bryan Bresee at number 18 if the Carter situation is just too much. And if we decide just to go take a corner at number 6, I like some of the defensive lineman prospects in here. There are some really good names in here. Will Anderson would be a good complement to Aiden Hutchinson, to get some pressure off Hutchinson so Hutchinson could go fucking balling. Because you can't double team everybody on that defensive line. Carter would be a good option, too, to help be the anchor in that defensive line. Same deal with Bryan Bresee. Some interesting names to keep an eye on for sure. So, yeah, that wraps up for this draft preview as we're going to get started doing NFL draft previews for 2023. So, yeah, and, of course, on the next draft preview, will be on the round 1 linebacker prospects if the Lions choose to go linebacker in the first round. So, yeah, anyway, though, that'll wrap it up here. That's all I got to say, and I'll see y'all whenever I make next. I'm out.